Herzlich willkommen wieder bei Grobi TV, unserem Heimkino-Kanal. Jetzt werden wir mal wieder die Übersetzungsfunktion von YouTube testen, denn das folgende Gespräch werde ich in Englisch mit meinem wunderbaren Schulenglisch versuchen. Neben mir sitzt der gute Ivan de Kuiper und wir sind hier in den Galaxy Studios. Der eine oder andere dürfte diesen Raum erkennen, denn der eine oder andere war ja auch schon mal persönlich hier. In den letzten Jahren waren wir ja zweimal mit einer großen Gruppe von Heimkino-Fans hier und da hat uns der Wilfried einiges zu diesem Raum erzählt. Und es gibt mal wieder einen Grund, warum ich mich ins Auto gesetzt habe und hier nach Belgien gefahren bin. Ivan, erstmal, thank you very much that we have a chance to see us again.
Yes.
The first thing I see is you have a new logo.
Yes, we have a new logo. Well, we've been using it for quite a while. But yes, that's correct.
So that means Auro 3D is...
Auro 3D is still Auro 3D. It's the same. It's just another branding. So nothing changed. Everything remained the same. And we just use another logo.
And you have a separate company?
Yes, we're now Gore Dynamics BV.
Yes.
And we're part of Gore Dyna, which is also part of Gore Tech. So yeah, we have a new identity, and that also came with the new logo. So that's what we decided.
Wunderbar. Yep. So, and the reason why we are here and see each other is that we like to present a project which is some years ago started here in this room in the studio.
Yes, it started in this room.
I show it.
Yep.
And this is amazing. I was last week, Saturday, I can show you some images. I showed it some of my customers and they were absolutely impressed because they like the sounds, they like the music, and they like absolutely the immersive sound because it is in its Auro 3D available.
Yes, correct. So, I mean, this is, we have to be honest here, this is a decade ago. So we're talking about a project that we did almost 10 years ago. And it's really nice that we can actually talk about it because basically it's even 2014 when this project actually started. So from our point of view, from Auro, at that point you had people like Morten Lindberg, for instance, creating a lot of classical music for Auro. But at that point in time, this is 2014, we had to change our strategy in order to create pop music also in Auro 3D, because there was a lot of classical music being created, but we also needed to do other stuff, right? So in 2014, we decided that we wanted to work with a band called Mando Diao. You probably know this production as well. And while working with them on this project, they were the first band to actually create an Auro 3D mix pop music in Auro 3D. And that went really well, and that was really nicely done. And the second one that we basically did was Piet Godard, which is Ozark Henry, which is a very famous Belgian artist. And actually doing these two projects, one was with Universal and one was with Sony Music. So we sort of like upped the game, you know, and tried to create music that is not only classical music, but has different, so Mando Diao is rock kind of music and poppy, Ozark Henry's kind of poppy music. So we wanted to do different things. So we thought like, hey, maybe there is a sort of music, soul, vibe, something that my parents listened to, you know, when I grew up, which would be nice to see if we can, you know, create an Auro 3D mix with something with a little bit more soul in it, right? So that was a wish, maybe wishful thinking, we didn't know at that time. The good thing is that on the previous two projects we did for Universal and Sony, we worked with Darcy Proper, right? And Darcy Proper is a Grammy-nominated mastering engineer. And she was actually involved with George McRae on the stereo version of this album, right? So we came across each other, of course, in the studio because we previously worked together. And we came across and she said like, hey, listen, you know, this album is also in the making. Maybe this is something, you know, for you guys. So, of course, we had a quick listen. And funny enough, George himself lives in the Netherlands, so quite close by to our neighborhood. So, I mean, everything came together and we were just like, hey, maybe this is a good album, you know, to create in Auro 3D. But, I mean, there was a bit of a problem because back in the days, we're talking 10 years ago, right? So the whole immersive audio experience, or basically the landscape, was different 10 years ago, right, than it is today. So we had to see like, it was still physical product driven, right? So we had to decide like, okay, how are we going to do this? Because George McRae, his album was licensed to a smaller label in the Netherlands, which is called Pop Me Music. And there was a little bit of a concern about the distribution because, I mean, we were all convinced that we wanted to do this album, right? It sounds great, the man is awesome, he sounds really soulful, it's something that we really want to do, arrangements, everything is great, but you know, if we were going to do it, how are we going to do it? It's a small label that we were involved in, and we didn't have the distribution power from Universal or Sony to do this. So we went all back to the drawing board and trying to find out how are we going to get this first ever soul music album out there, you know, without the support of a Universal or a Sony. And there was actually only one solution at that point that we could think of, and that was starting our own label. So at that point in time, so this is indeed 2016 when we did the album, we decided that as RO, we would set up our own label, which maybe sounds a bit crazy, but I mean, at that time, that was the best thing to do. So we made an agreement with Pop Me Music and us and signed the rights for the Our 3D Mix over to our newly established record label. So that faces the distribution problem, because setting up a record label is relatively easy to do. It's the distribution that is the problem. Again, this is almost 10 years ago, so everything is physical driven, right? So we need to create a pure audio Blu-ray to get this out there for the people that have an R2D system and to actually listen to this. So we looked and find partners actually to work with us and be able to distribute this album. So we found Black Hole Recordings in the Netherlands. They were able to say like, hey, let's take on this product, let's provide worldwide distribution for this album to do, right? So it's a very difficult process to start from an independent project to make sure that it's physically available over the world. So this was a huge, huge challenge and a huge undertaking. So you have the whole creativity, the whole discussions about how the record should sound, how the arrangement should sound, how the Our 3D Mix should sound, how we did it here in the Galaxy Studios. We did an amazing mix here for all the people that were involved. Philip Herkmans, who did the mix, Darcy Proper again for the mastering. And I mean, you heard it yourself, it sounds amazing listening back. Even after all these years, it still sounds solid. But I mean, without the distribution, I mean, it can be as good as it is, but if people cannot buy it, it's a problem, right? So when we finally tackled the final stage of doing the distribution, we were able to release the record. Of course, that's history. That is what we have done in the past. So basically, why are we talking here today? Then, because it's a record that's already a decade old. Well, from now, starting forward, there are some service providers digitally that allow our 2D mixes to be distributed digitally, which we didn't have before, right? So now you have a company like Arrow Masters who is able to take that original mix, the Our 2D mix, and stream that to customers at home. And for us, that's of course an eye-opener. We all know physical media is struggling, and for us it was important that we were able to do that. Now there is two ways you can look at it in terms of how you're going to distribute a digital mix to the customer in terms of a music album. So most people that technical knowledge, the R2D codec is always used in the past to take the upper layer of the channels and lower them in the lower layers to be distributed on a Blu-ray over HDMI. Well, now Arrow Masters is using actually ROCX, and ROCX is actually R2D's streaming codec, right? So it doesn't use the RO codec, but it's ROCX. It's a new codec that actually is optimized for streaming, right? So it allows you to take one single stream and take that RO stream directly to the consumer without any loss of quality. There are some additional advantages also for using ROCX, because you have adaptive bitrate, so that allows you to change the bitrate depending on where you are. I mean, you're driving in a car, we all know how that works, you know, different bit rates and scalable bit rates basically, which already exist for visuals, but it didn't exist really for, it existed in stereo, but not really for immersive audio. So we have a whole team of engineers that were able to take an adaptive bit rate, changing that, you know, on the go. So now people are, in Arrow Masters for instance, they can actually listen to our 2D on the go if they want to. So for us, it's a journey. For us, it's been indeed 10 years, and it's actually quite nice to celebrate a journey, you know, from us, from our point of view as well, from Arro, to a physical media with an artist like George McRae, and then celebrate the same project 10 years later being available on Arro Masters in the streaming platform. And for us, that's one of the key, you know, the key elements of showing to people like, you know, hey, we're busy, you know, we're trying to get people to have an amazing 3D audio experience, and partners like Arro Masters are the ones that help us to create that.
Congratulations, that was the longest monologue ever in my YouTube videos.
No, you have to be kidding me.
I think so. That's the point. Also, George McRae is a guy which is very, very famous in the music scene. He was with an amazing Grammy nominated. He had 1974
was Grammy nominated for Best Male R&B Vocal.
Yeah, and the point is, and this is so impressive again and again, you hear the music and you are maybe not the guy which is taking it automatically from the desk when you see this kind of music, but because it's maybe not your style you like and so on. You are maybe more for hard rock or for electronics and what. But if you hear this one and you switch from stereo to the Arro Master, also Arro 3D in this point, we have it here on a Pure Audio, but on Arro Masters we will have it in the original quality. It was a 24-bit 96 kilohertz.
Yes, correct.
Yes, and you push the button and then you say, wow, what's going on? And it was happening last Saturday. I can show you some images. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So, and I'm very happy because this is nearly not available. Nearly not. We have some pieces. It's difficult to get it. We have some of them. But now you can hear it much better on your earphone by the Arro Masters app. It sounds also more dynamic, you have more deep, you have more immersive sound because it's not the stereo file, it is a 9.1 file. And then if you have as hardware in the moment, it's the NVIDIA Shield, you can connect it to your audio equipment if you have it in the Arro 3D layouts and support it, and then you can hear it like you have the disc in your hands.
Correct.
And I promise you, it makes so much fun. And I promise you too that behind the door is George McRae. And he was just in a moment again hearing the sound, because I heard that he has maybe not an Arro system at home. We need to change it.
We need to change
it because he's living here in the Netherlands, in Florida, and on Aruba.
Aruba, correct.
Very nice parts of the world. I think so. So and it was so funny to see, it was so emotional to see when he heard his own voices with this arrangement of the sound, what it makes with him, and it is extremely nice. So we do it now since 11-12 years. We are supporting Arro, and we have now a new generation, maybe also on our YouTube channel, and they don't understand what is the meaning of this. Please come to us. I have it there. You can show it. I can show it to you, and you can. I need not to speak so much like you and me now in the moment. We need only to start play, and that's it.
Playing and listening is convincing enough. Yes.
Okay, that means Arro 3D will be for the future also more focusing on music, absolutely, like it did in the past for a lot of genres.
Yes.
There's a lot of things happening in the background. We had a very successful 2 days on Düsseldorf Tonmeistertagung. It was very good. We had fantastic people at our booth, Grammy nominated guys, Grammy, what is it called? Grammy awarded also, also when they got the Grammy, also both. And they were absolutely impressed because what we heard again and again, and this is something the people are not saying so loud in the public, but everybody told us, if you are here in the studio with this equipment and you mix your songs and later on you go to, private equipment and whatever, or you hear it on the stream, you are sometimes shocked how it sounds when you stream it in stereo and when you heard it before here in stereo. And that's the point. On the Arro Masters, nothing is changed. It is the original arrangement. There's nothing new rendered or whatever.
Correct. So basically, Arro Masters is the digital service provider at this point that is using our Arro CX technology, right? And our Arro CX technology is in basic lossless.
Yes.
Right. So I mean, I know there is some discussions with some people that say, like, if you would compare the Arro codec, the original Arro codec, with Arro CX, there is some discussion that the Arro codec originally, because of the high channels that need to be encoded in the lower channel, you could consider it not 100% lossless. But this is a technical discussion. I mean, you cannot hear it. I mean, it uses the least significant bits, right, to actually encode the height layer into this is the Auro codec that I'm talking about, to do that basically. So there's a lot of discussion about this. It's not really lossless. In Auro CX, of course, you don't have that discussion because it's not there. There is no encode going into lower ends. So everything that's lossless, if it's 24-bit, 96 kilohertz, you will get 24 bits, 96 kilohertz in immersive audio. And it really doesn't matter if this 9.1, 10.1, 13.1, 714, whatever. It really doesn't matter anymore. So this is the key that we basically use in order to give the people a truly immersive audio experience at home, right?
Yes. You are also responsible for movies.
Yes.
And you did a lot of projects in the last few years.
That's an exciting topic.
Yeah, and sometimes the Germans are a little bit crying because it's mostly for the Benelux.
Yes.
And it is, like we said it a lot of times, it is a question of the rights.
Yes.
Because the companies which are the owner of the rights is maybe only allowed to sell it to the Dutch market, as a Benelux in this point, and they have not the rights for the German tracks, as an example, and it is sometimes also not allowed to sell it to Germany.
Correct.
So it is not a bad will or whatever, it is only a question of the rights.
Yes.
So what we have, and I know sometimes professional people from the professional industry, film industry, are looking also at our channel. Please give him the rights for Ballerina in Germany, for a lot of other things.
Yes.
Now the newest one was yesterday announced.
Yeah, that was the Ritual. That's basically the same story. So we announced the Ritual as well, which was mixed in Auro 3D, but only for the Benelux. So it's we get a lot of these questions on our social media channels as well,
yes,
right?
Of course.
So I'll try to explain quickly how that works, because a lot of people really don't understand how the rights management works in terms of movies, which sometimes is also the same for music, but that's basically another topic. The problem with actually creating the mixes is that every territory in the world, if we're talking about physical products, so Blu-rays and 4K UHDs, right? Yeah. Every territory in the world where the movie is licensed to can decide on themselves which audio mix they will put on the product.
Yes.
So that means that we as Auro 3D are depending or basically requesting a lot of these territories to say like, hey, wait a minute, we have an Auro 3D mix here. Do you want to use it for your territory, yes or no? So it's a top-down approach where we look at like, hey, we create this mix. Do you want to use it, yes or no? Of course, this also sparks another question, which basically comes back from these territories. And these territories look at how popular is Auro, how big is the demand, right? And of course, we are very strong in Benelux and Germany, Austria, Switzerland, right? So for these two territories, it's relatively easy. I say relatively easy to create Auro 3D mixes because there are distributors that we work with, right? So in the Benelux, it's Source One Media, it's the searchers that we work with, it's I don't know, for Germany we work with Turbine, of course. We work with Cape Light. We work with Vuelta. So there are companies that are interested in taking on the Auro 3D mix as part of their product. But in the end, the most difficult part is that each and every territory on their own can decide if they want it, yes or no. So it's a very complex ecosystem because they cannot sell it through another country.
Yes.
And this is a rights issue, and that is very difficult to, because a lot of people think like, oh, there's an Auro 3D mix, so everybody in every country will use that Auro 3D mix, but that's not how it works.
Ja, okay. Also, you can write if you like. Also ihr könnt ja auch gerne mal an die deutschen Besitzer der entsprechenden Filmrechte schreiben. Da fällt mir Leonine beispielsweise ein.
Ja.
Ne, die haben beispielsweise Ballerina. They have the rights for the Ballerina.
Correct.
And for, what was it now, Warfare was also one very impressive production. And yeah, maybe we will change something.
Yeah, but it's up to them to decide.
Absolutely.
It's up to them. If
the doors are so open, you have everything done, and you need only the rights. The mix is there.
The mix is there, so...
So it means, technical-wise, you make the mix for the boom, bam, boom, and you need only then the voice, the German voices, and you combine this with the Auro mix.
It depends a bit on what kind of production that we do. I mean, ideally, we would like to start from stems materials, right? To make the best
of course.
Sometimes movies, they don't have the stems available or whatever. So we need to work with the 5.1 or the 7.1
Yeah.
source, which can have separate effects, separate voice, you know, so we can work with that. And we can create an amazing Auro 3D mix. I mean, you did already a lot of tests at Groby.
Yeah, it was working. You did a good job with your team. No? You are the one,
Yeah,
and the other ones. And
there's Fabian
And
Brummel.
you told me that I get now an invitation from you that I
Yes.
have a chance to see the new studio.
Yes, correct.
And we take a look inside, and
Yeah.
we take a look over your shoulder. That will
That's
be
correct.
happen in 2026.
2026, yes, you come to us.
Yes, and then we take a look.
And we can take a look.
So we
Very
do
good.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have done everything. History, music.
History and music, and apologies to the Germans for not providing enough movies, but that's something else.
Yeah, we are working on it. Thank you very much, Ivan.
It's a pleasure, always.
Ja, einen wunderschönen guten Tag. Ich habe wieder Post aus Belgien bekommen. Und zwar sind hier gerade 2 Scheiben von dem Film Ballerina eingetroffen. Einmal Blu-ray, einmal UHD. Und tatsächlich ist dieser Film in Auro 3D neu abgemischt worden. Und zwar in Englisch und in Französisch. Es ist leider wieder eine dieser Produktionen, die nur für den Benelux-Markt geeignet ist. Der eine oder andere, der die holländische Oma oder belgische Oma jetzt schon adoptiert hat, der kann sicherlich an die Scheibe rankommen. Ansonsten leider sehr schwer. Was wir gerade im Hintergrund hören, ist die Dolby Atmos Spur oben, denn sie ist auch drauf, und das ist also ganz spannend, mal zwischen den beiden Spuren hin und her zu schalten, denn das, was wir hier eigentlich hören, ist die Kinospur. Und wie wir gerade merken, obwohl es da hinten gerade richtig knallt, Bumm macht und was nicht alles, hören wir da oben überhaupt nichts. Das, was man hier gerade noch hört, ist der Bass, die untere Ebene ist aus. Wir werden aber gleich eine Lampe hören, eine Lampe quietschen hören. Warum auch immer diese Lampe quietscht, da ist sie. Also man kann sich hier die Kugeln um die Ohren hauen und auch Explosion, da ist nichts, aber wenn die Lampe quietscht, dann muss das oben rein. Kann man machen mit Auro 3D, ganz ehrlich, die Originalspur, die wir jetzt hier zum ersten Mal gehört haben, neu abgemischt hier für diesen Film, hört sich die Sache aber mal sowas von anders an, und zwar von der ersten bis zum letzten Bild. Das werde ich euch im nächsten Video mal zeigen, und wer sich das vorher schon mal anschauen möchte, kommt vorbei, dann erklären wir euch mal, was es mit dem Thema 3D-Sound auf sich hat, und dann drücken wir uns mal alle die Daumen, dass wir demnächst noch viel mehr deutsche Tonspuren mit echtem Auro haben, weil jedes Mal, wenn wir in eine Auro-Scheibe reinhören, merken wir, was wir vermissen, wenn wir leider die Atmos hören. Hat nichts mit dem System zu tun, ich muss es nochmal klar sagen, hat was mit den Mischungen zu tun, warum auch immer da drüben, drüben heißt es Amerika, England, wo auch immer, die da so komisch mischen, nicht nachvollziehbar. Das System könnte es deutlich besser, aber ich lasse es ja die ganze Zeit laufen. Ihr merkt gerade, da kann viel passieren im Hintergrund, es passiert nichts da oben, und das ist natürlich sehr, sehr ärgerlich. Also im nächsten Video werden wir euch ein bisschen mehr davon erzählen.